What's up, everybody? We got a very special Monster Truck podcast today from AllMonster.com. We are joined by Lee O'Donnell, the reigning Freestyle World Champion, who set the world on fire with a front flip recently in Las Vegas. Lee, how you doing? How is everything?
All good, man. Just kind of settling back into reality here back home.
Yeah, that leads right into the first question I was going to ask you. It's been a bit of a journey for you. You have come from a long way, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But the main thing, of course, is the front flip and freestyle. I got to ask, what was running through your mind when you were up into that slap wheelie and you felt those back tires touch the next obstacle?
You know, I don't know about other drivers, but for myself, you're just so focused on what you're doing. It's I don't really recall the back tires hitting. The only thing I do recall about the flip was when I was inverted, the mud that was on the floor now hit me in my face shield on my helmet. And as I'm flying, all I could think about was I hope I can see when I land. That was the only I remember, and that I was really concerned with. I wasn't concerned with landing it or crashing or anything. I was like, boy, I hope I'm going to be able to see. And I could see when I landed. So
Well, that's good. That was going to be the next question headed into the backflip ramp. Of course, that didn't go quite as well as the front flip. But going along with that, was that something that you had ever considered? Because the only precedent I've seen set for that is a while back, Charlie Pauken drove Escalade, and his accidental slap wheelie into a front flip type of deal didn't work out so well. He injured his hand. So was that something you'd ever considered, or were you going for just a simple slap wheelie?
no, it started in Detroit. I did, I was always a big fan of. I'm still a fan of Charlie Pauken. So he would always do a move where he'd get it up on the bumper and he'd ride a slap wheelie to a ramp. And I always thought, out of all the stuff I've ever seen in Monster Jam, that was always my favorite. That was always the coolest for me.
Yeah.
So I did it in Detroit, and it didn't work out so well. I crashed. But when I got home, I was watching video, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, boy, that would be pretty cool if I could do it on something that was a little steeper, and it would trip the truck real nice and tip it up onto the grill and then back on its wheels, and I could drive away. And so I'm like, all right, well, and I didn't say anything. I briefly talked to Cam McQueen about it. Probably one of the, few guys that I trust talking about stuff like that. So, I told him, and he's, just kind of agreed with me and thought it'd be cool. So Vegas was the place to try it. And there were only two ramps that it would actually, that I thought it would work. One was where Jim Kohler hit on the side of the pond.
Yep.
Couldn't get a slap wheelie to that, but the other one was the one that I hit. Now, with that being said, my thought was that I was going to ride a slap wheelie to that ramp, and it was going to trip it, bounce off the nose, and back to the tires on the other side of the pod.
Right.
The what worked out well in my favor was I never hit the wheelie bar, and it just gained speed. And I was not, I was already fully committed, so my foot was not coming off the floor until I felt the thing hit the air. So,
Right.
and it worked out kind of well, I guess.
Well, and what's funny is I guess, the rumor that was circulating a little while after the event is that basically that wasn't really super intentional, and that Brian was supposed to tell you when you were supposed to, when you were starting to get close. And I guess now that kind of puts that rumor to bed.
Yeah. Brian is I like nonstop communication. He talks to me from the time I get in the truck till the time I finish or crash. So he's always talking to me. And, he knew and I knew that he was never going to say, set it down. It was never going to come out of his mouth.
That's awesome. So the aggressive style and everything has developed over the years, I would say. You started off in the Soda series and doing short course off road. Had a little bit of a time in Spider-Man, and I just think out of any of the drivers that are currently employed by Feld, you probably have the most unique journey. A couple different runs with the company. I was in Atlanta when you were what they kept calling the super sub, winning in
Yeah.
Blue Thunder and going all the way. From coming from that all the way to being a freestyle world champion, did any of that stuff run through your mind when you're up on the stage, you're accepting the award for the freestyle champion and all that stuff?
Uh, you know, it's. I'm gonna say no, just to be honest. It's it it's like everything is happening really fast, but then at the same time it's super slow. It's really weird. You're kind of, I'm looking at when I'm up on the stage and they got the camera in your face and you're staring at all these faces and I remember Cam being there. I remember Matt Byton, but there were probably 100 other people that I know very well, but I couldn't tell you who was there. So you gotta almost go back to business and okay, I need to make sure that I thank my wife and my kids and VP and then you just you kind of get back into that corporate mentality for a few minutes to make sure you get all your plugs in. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's I don't know. Just never really, you put it so eloquently, just going back there, in my mind, and I'm like, well, yeah, I guess that was pretty cool, but yeah, it never came to mind. It was just, the moment was just it happened really fast.
Yeah, yeah. Not unlike the front flip. I would say as we were going through that and everybody's watching it and the crowd roars and everything, when you hit the ground and you know that you've still got a truck underneath you and you've cleared the mud from your visor, was your next thought, oh my God, I'm gonna win this thing? Was there
No.
anything else kind of going through your mind there, or was it just, oh man, thank goodness?
No, and I talked to one of my best friends in the world. I talked to Damon this morning. Uh,
Mhm.
we were talking about it, and I'm like, you know what, dude, I can't. When I'm driving, it's like you're just so focused on what you're doing. It's like I didn't land and say, oh my God, I just did a front flip. I was worried like, all right, am I going to be able to see? And then as soon as I landed, it's like, all right, well, let me get the truck stopped and let me see where I am. And I'm sitting there staring at this container, and I'm like, well, might as well try for a backflip, and um, I tried to angle it off the side to get the corkscrew thing like Cam does, but um, apparently somebody had broken the pipe that was feeding the pond,
Mhm.
so that whole corner of the stadium was like soup. So what Cam had said is like, yeah, you just had no traction and just once you got to the container, that was it. You had no speed, you had nothing. So that's kind of the way that played out, I guess you could say.
Well, and in your defense, I mean, you'd already done a lot in your freestyle run. You'd already stuck one backflip. You did the front flip, obviously. There's so much out there that everybody else had already tried. It seemed like there really wasn't much else left for you to do. So yeah, try corkscrew. Just wasn't the right side to hit it with.
Well, in hindsight, I'm like, damn it, imagine if I landed it. And then
There's no roof on that building, but it would have blown off.
yeah, I know. My other thought was, I should have, taken a second to think of what I was doing, and I should have finished with a donut. That kind of would have set it off. But the crash was still cool, I guess. People dig when you crash, so.
Yeah, absolutely. We love some donuts. It wouldn't have been bad, but since you talked about everything being a blur, I'm looking through your Twitter feed and your Facebook, and it's all about the front flip right now. And if I go Google your name, it's Lee O'Donnell front flip. It's a big thing, the likes of which I would say we've not seen before. This stuff's getting shared on ESPN everywhere. How much have you been, for lack of better words, in demand by other people? Media and through Feld and everything else since the event ended?
Yeah, it's been, I don't want to say nonstop, but yeah, my phone rings a lot now. We're, from what I understand, it's like I get a morning call from a girl named Amanda, who's really awesome. She pretty much does all the PR that I've ever been involved with. So usually get a call every morning from her. All right, this is what they want. And, what do you feel like doing today? And so yeah, it's been a lot of phone calls and interviews, and so we might be going to LA on Monday to do something. I still haven't heard yet, but you guys know who I am. All about me. I hung sheetrock today, and it's Tuesday, so I made venison taco Tuesday for my kids. That was my day today. So
hey, I'll be right over. That sounds good.
Yeah, I'm nibbling on quesadillas before we got started here, so I'm right there on the same page with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's superstar last week, and you know what? I need to finish sheetrocking because I'm going to Mexico for an off-road race for 5 days.
Nice.
That's my next. I don't sit here and lean against the trophy and say, boy, that was awesome. I don't even know where the trophy is, to be honest. I think it might be in New Mexico. I'm really not that sure. But that was last week. My focus now is I have an off-road race coming up that I need to focus on, and then I think I might have an international show coming up that I have to. It's another thing I got to prepare for. So it's, maybe I should be a little more melancholy, because the way you described it sounded pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the things coming full circle, you're busy. Of course, the schedule's tightened up a lot. When you're taking a look at what's to come, of course, I'm going back to the off-road stuff and where you came from again. Did you ever think when you went back to off-road racing after you were done with your first run with Monster Jam, did you think that was going to be where you stuck? Did you ever have an idea that you would come back and then end up getting into the super sub role and be where you're at now?
No, I think, when I was in Spider-Man, they put me in, and it was way different back then, like way, way different than it is today. Like not even the same at all. So I did Minneapolis and I didn't do very well, and they kind of pulled me out of the truck. I thought a little prematurely. I mean, they didn't cut me any slack. It's like, I wrecked once. I said one thing that I shouldn't have said, and that was kind of it. I was gone. But, I was never not in touch with Mike Wales.
Mm-hmm.
He had said, don't worry about it. Just be patient, and I was. And so I went to off-road, but what a lot of people don't know about me is like, I was never a monster truck person. It was just not my thing. I was, a true off-road racer, and that was it. It was just, I did Monster Jam, because it was something to do, it's, so yeah. And then when I did get back into it, I think it was just 1 year I sat out. I think maybe 2. I don't know. You might know better than me.
I want to say a couple years personally. I was thinking of Minneapolis when we were talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know, I think that was in 2000, I believe.
Yeah.
And then, I don't even know. I guess it would. No, I'm trying to think if it was Atlanta when it was my first time back. I don't know. Maybe it was before that. I don't know.
They had talked to you about Atlanta was like 2010, and as far as that, but that was already a storyline coming in there because you'd been in the seat a couple different times. Well, not that seat, but a couple of other ones.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, it was just something I did. I was never a monster truck person, and I can't even, as I sit here and say I'm a freestyle champion this year, it's like, freestyle is just something I did because that's what was required. I'm a racer,
Right.
It's like I always look forward to racing, whoever, it was Damon or Todd or whoever, I just wanted to beat the guy on the other side, and freestyle was just something that I had to do to be there.
Yeah.
And now look,
Well, and it's funny you bring up, because like you said, you are a racer at heart, and you're one of the guys that I really enjoy. Whenever I get a lineup and I see, oh, Lee's on it, okay, we've got somebody that's a racer, and you look at whoever else, and you try and think, okay, who's going to be the competitive matchups to look out for on this particular night? And you've always been somebody that, kind of, you know, always freestyles hard, but also drives with a certain level of respect, and that you don't just go out there and demolish a truck. You treat them well. You try and put together a really strong performance, but you also take pride in pulling it back into the pits, all fours together. And then here you are stringing together, a pretty ridiculous run, and taking the freestyle championship, and not necessarily trashing the truck either. I mean, you did come up short with the corkscrew flip attempt or whatever, but it wasn't like you ripped housings out or busting shocks off or anything like that.
Yeah, and I always prided myself, every year. I always wanted to be, in the bottom, 5 or 6 guys in damage every year, because I don't know, that just wasn't part of my job. My job is to go out there and put in a solid run, try and win racing, put a solid freestyle in, park my truck, sign autographs, and go home. That was, that's what I did. That was my job. It's changed a little now with the Mad Scientist deal, the VP deal, but I still like to go out, do a good run, and park it at the end. And I always try to look out, who's out there that does that, and there's like not a lot of guys left that put in a solid effort and park it. John Zimmer's one of those guys. I had to run with him all the first 6 shows this year, and it's like, gosh,
Absolutely.
whatever I did, he'd go out and top it, and I'm like, God dang it, and he'd park right next to me, and I'm like, good job, man. I don't know what else to say. He just goes out there and kills it, and so I always pride myself on doing that. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great segue too. We work with John a lot, and that's definitely cut from the same cloth there. Always good to see people respect the equipment and still respect the fans with a great run as well. So you talked briefly about the sponsored ride, and that's another kind of a journey for you. When Ed Horman and Josh Rhodes interviewed you for our Monster Profile 5 years ago now, you were talking at that time. You were the driver of Iron Man, and you were still looking for. Maybe it's a Lucas Oil, maybe it's a Ford, maybe it's an Advance. You were saying, I want to be a sponsored, driver, and now you get that deal. So if you can, talk a little bit about how everything came together and where your mind's at as far as that, because that's something that not a lot of people are entrusted with. You go from being taken out of Spider-Man to now you are representing not only yourself and Feld, but you have a sponsored ride.
Yeah, as a racer, any racer, being in the big sponsored ride is the goal. That's what you're striving for. And I was always so jealous of Lindsay. God, and we laugh about it now when when I was younger and he was younger and he was winning and I was winning, we hated each other for no reason whatsoever. But we hated each other, wouldn't talk to each other, wouldn't look at each other, and I was just so jealous, of him and Blue Thunder and the Ford deal, and that was one of the motivating factors in Atlanta. It's like my boss at the time said, "Well, you need to go there and win." And I'm like, well, you're damn right I'm going to go down there and win. And, I got lucky and I did win. But, Lindsay he tells me now, he's like, yeah, that was horrible. I can't believe you did that, But anyway, getting back on track. So it's when the Marvel deal kind of just went away like so quick, and I wasn't prepared for it. And I don't think the company was prepared for it. And then, so they were working on a deal with that brown truck that they had.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much is public, how much isn't, but they were working on a big deal, and I was going to be the driver, and it kind of all fell apart at the very end. So I was stuck driving Zombie Hunter. Mm-hmm. And I think while, that was just somewhere they put me, knowing that they were working on putting a deal together with VP, and it was just, kind of a matter of time. Um, with them, I believe, nobody's ever told me this, but I believe that, it was just, they were waiting to put me into that truck is what I was thinking.
Definitely a great fit. Dustin?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, how things kind of happen so quickly because, again, the Marvel deal falls apart and then suddenly you're kind of shoehorned into the zombie hunter role. And it seems like, as you were saying, things kind of just, nobody was really prepared for that because the truck didn't even really have like a clear identity and everything like that. And it was just kind of like, well, what in the heck? Lee goes from a high profile ride to a ride that nobody really has any understanding of what it is to all of a sudden, oh, hey, now there's this super sweet VP mad scientist truck. It looks clean, it looks sharp and everything like that. And it just seems to fit the mold perfect to you. It's just kind of one of those like just perfect fits.
Yeah, it couldn't, it can't be any better for me. I mean, it's, there, I went down to, the plant down there and I met with the owner and all the employees. And as I was, they're taking me on a tour of this whole place and I'm looking at the employees and I'm talking to them and everybody's just, everybody's digging their job and everybody likes working there and they like the company. And I'm like, this is a good thing. If they're happy here, somebody's doing something right and I'm going to be happy here, because, you could just tell when your employees are happy, upper management's doing something right. And if they're doing something right, then, that's where I want to be. And, you could see, at every show that we go to, they have a presence, they have, they have a clear plan, strategy, and they are 100% going in that direction. And it builds confidence in me because I know they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
This is, I'm their guy and this is what we're doing.
Yeah, how much do the sponsors put in sometimes is definitely a question that I've seen to be answered. It's great to know that that's something where they're not only behind you in presence on the truck, as far as the logos everywhere, but there's actually people there supporting. I have heard from some other drivers. I guess we can talk about it now. Frank Kermel used to drive Donkey Kong, and he mentioned about how, hey, we didn't even have a request for a display in Tacoma right near the headquarters of Nintendo. So
yeah,
sometimes stuff like that happens, and you got to feel a little lucky to have put in the work, but also to have the right fit. Not only just a sponsored truck, but what you feel like, if I'm hearing you right, the sponsored truck for you.
Yeah, I couldn't ask for anything other than what I have. I don't know how long we were with Iron Man. There's 5, 6, 7 years, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
And never did I ever see anybody from Marvel, not once. Which I always asked. Hey, is nobody interested in this? And never really got a full answer. But I was still there. I was representing Marvel and Iron Man. I did it. I tried to do the best I could. But now when there's every weekend there's somebody there I have to answer to, it's like I have to perform every weekend. I have to be, everything, from my hat, to my sneakers, got to be clean, everything. It's just the chair I sit in, Brian, goes crazy cleaning stuff just because we know somebody from VP is going to be there no matter what. So everything has to be perfect all the time. And Brian's killing it every week. Does a fantastic job. I love that kid.
Now you bring up Brian, and for all of us that haven't known Brian May is your crew chief. How cool is it to have a crew chief that has driving experience,
Huge.
Talking to you?
Huge. People have no clue how big a deal that is. And, he understands, I love that when we go out and do practice or whatever on Friday and we do a mock qualifying run and all this stuff, he never says, well, how'd that feel? Well, doesn't matter what I think. You're looking at the truck. You know, we always have our other guy, Jeremy. He's always videotaping. You know, so Brian, he'll take the camera, he'll look at the run, adjust the shocks. You know, he's always on top of it, and it's because he's a driver and he knows. You know, I'm like, did it bounce? I don't know. Did it bounce? You know, so he's really on top of everything.
Definitely. We're on top of things as well. We realize you only have a short amount of time here because you've got more sheetrock to hang, you know, a little bit of sleep to try to get and everything. Just to wrap a couple things up, final couple questions for you. Favorite race that you have ever had in a monster truck? Favorite freestyle you have ever had in a monster truck? And, of course, anything you want to plug at the end.
Well, I don't want you to feel rushed. Don't feel rushed. If you got more questions, you ask them. But I'll anytime I have a few favorite races. Arnhem. I was in Nitro Circus and I was racing Damon, and I love. There's nothing better than beating him in racing, because I just relentlessly rub it in his face. So yeah, he beat everybody. He was faster than everybody. We made it to the finals, and I just beat him by a foot or whatever it was, and then I ripped the whole front end right out of the truck and at the finish line. It was pretty awesome. So that's one of my favorites. Beating him and Todd. I beat Damon and Todd the same year in World Finals. So I really enjoyed doing that. I think that might have been the year with Tom. Mm-hmm. So that was, those are a couple of my favorites. And then freestyle, I guess, this one would have to kind of top it. It was pretty cool.
Definitely going for the home run swing. Final thing, then we'll ask one more little bonus question.
Keep going.
Any PG? Well, you know what? Any sort of funny monster truck insider type stories that you can share? I know that you guys kind of had I know you're laughing because you know what I'm talking about. There's kind of a group of 4 of you that kind of palled around there for a long time. I'm sure there were some pretty good stories that came out of that. Do you have any that you'd like to share with everybody?
Will these involve EIC reports?
And if the Fantastic Four.
Yes.
I love my brothers. That's it. I can't do that one. Can't. This year, we stayed. We get a condo with the McQueens, both families. We stay out at a lake in Las Vegas, and so we have a good time there. I like getting all the families together more than anything. Mm-hmm. But all the stories would have to be in person and off the record.
Involving Cam, I imagine, yes.
It's really bad when the 4 of us are together, and then we kind of brought in Lindsay Wink and Scott Buteau into our little group, and sometimes it's really out of control. That's corporate never wanted any of the 4 of us to be in the same place at the same time.
Peggy Wales's nightmare.
Absolutely.
She's the one that got me in the door, and she's one of my biggest supporters for sure.
Oh, she and I have been good friends for a long time now, going back to doing Monsters on the Beach for years when she would run RIIs for all the company trucks. And never forget 2008, and she will remind me of this story every time that we see one another because we refer to each other as beach buddies. But Eventually, during the course of the weekend, the goal became of Randy Brown's to try and see whether or not they could cover Peggy with sand without her shutting him off. And sure enough, Peggy and I always hung out in the same spot in the boardwalk, and Randy figured out just exactly where Peggy and I were standing. And since I'm 6'4" and Peggy is not, I got used as the human shield and took the full brunt of a digger donut. So yeah, Peggy and I will forever share that bond.
Good deal. Good deal.
Absolutely. Well, listen, you guys can follow Lee on Facebook at Lee O'Donnell Monster Truck Driver. You can also follow him on Twitter, Lee O'Donnell 23. Lee, do you have anybody else you'd like to plug, shout out, thank, anything like that in closing?
Just VP. It's gosh, they're taking such good care of me, and Brian does a bang up job every week. I don't even question him anymore about anything. It's because I know it's done. So me. It took me a half an hour to get into Monster Jam Focus before I got on the phone with you guys. Just like all I'm thinking about are, all right, are all the dishes done? I really don't want to go out there and see a sink full of dishes because the kids, I'm sure, had ice cream or whatever, and so that's what I'm focusing on now at this point.
Leslie Mears reminded me of a good quote after Vegas. She said she had a good quote from our good friend Mark Schrader and said, "Nothing makes you feel less like a superstar at the end of the weekend when you get home and you're cleaning toilets on Monday."
There you go. Exactly.
Absolutely.
He's a class act. Class act.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you taking some time with us, Lee. And anytime you want back on here, you let us know. Happy to have you, and really appreciate everything you've done for the industry. And hope everything goes well with the future events. We'll be looking for you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.